animal biotechnology as a scientist C in 2013 and subsequently became scientist D. His research interest is in parasite biology. He has a vast experience in parasite biology. He has worked extensively on malaria parasite, where his research focuses on understanding the molecular host parasite interactions. And presently, he's working on a veterinary important parasite Theileria. His research interests are to understand the molecular basis of the disease theileriosis. It transmitted by tick. So he'll be talking about vector and vector-borne diseases. He's also interested in understanding the biology of vector tick, which transmits the Theileria parasite. So he has received several awards and fellowships and published several papers in peer international review journals. So I request Dr. Anand to start his talk on vector and vector-borne diseases. There is a little change in his title. Dr. Anand Srivastava, please. Dr. Anand, can you increase the volume of your speaker?
Is it fine now? Hello?
Hello?
Is it fine?
1 minute. Bappa, is it audible to you?
Oh, no.
No, it is very, very soft. You have to be louder.
Very
or the
feeble
microphone,
voice.
Put it closer to you.
I think, Anand, you have to do some setting changes, I guess.
Is it fine now?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
better.
Now it's better.
Yeah, so good morning to all of you. I'm Anand here, and thanks Dr. Abhijit for the introduction. So I'll be discussing about vector and vector-borne disease, and my talk will be very, very simple, so that because I know the gentry is from various fields, so I have made it very simple so that everybody can understand. So, so I'm sharing my screen now. The screen is visible? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you. So, so the title is Vector and Vector-borne Diseases, and so I'll start with what is vector. Vector are the living organism that can transmit. Who is doing this? Who can transmit infectious pathogen between humans or from animals, humans or from animals to humans. So basically, any organism which can act as a mediator between transmission of pathogen between humans or from animal to human are called vectors. So I'll give you some facts about these vectors. First of all, around 60% of disease known to affect humankind throughout the history are zoonotic. So what are zoonotic disease? Those diseases which are having animal origin and can be transmitted to humans. So zoonotic in are often transmitted by vectors. So, excuse me. So another fact is that rat and mice are responsible for more human illness and death than any other group of mammals. Mosquitoes are ranked #1 in transmission of diseases in humans. Ticks are ranked #1 in transmitting disease in livestock, and ticks are ranked #1 in carrying pathogen diversity. So I'll give you a brief list of vector and the disease which they causes. So we'll start with mosquito. So as such, mosquitoes, the species of mosquitoes are in large number. However, only few species of mosquitoes are involved in transmission of diseases, such as Aedes, Anopheles, Culex. So in Aedes, they can transmit various virus diseases. For example, they can transmit Chikungunya, Dengue virus. They can transmit Rift Valley fever virus. They can transmit yellow fever virus. They can transmit Zika virus, and also a parasite which leads to disease known as lymphatic filariasis. Similarly, Anopheles can also transmit this parasite, which causes lymphatic filariasis. And another important disease which this mosquito can transmit is malaria. As you all know, malaria is highly prevalent in India, and it is transmitted by mosquito, and the parasite is Plasmodium. The Culex mosquito can transmit viruses such as a Japanese encephalitis virus and West Nile fever virus. It can also transmit same parasite, which leads to a disease known as lymphatic filariasis. Even the small snails can also transmit parasite, histomes, and leads to psychostomasis. Fleas can transmit a bacteria, Yersinia pestis, which leads to a disease called plaque. Similarly, lice can transmit bacteria leading to disease called typhus. Sandflies can transmit a Leishmania donovani, which leads to a disease called leishmaniosis, and also a virus, filiobovirus, which leads to sandfly fever. Now we come to tick-borne diseases. As I mentioned, that ticks are number one in transmitting disease in animals. So various diseases are there which are transmitted by ticks into the livestock. Some of them are like Chikungunya hemorrhagic fever virus, Lyme disease, and replacing fever and rickettsial disease are transmitted by bacteria like Borrelia and Coxiella. The tick can transmit viruses such as tick-borne encephalitis, which leads to tick-borne encephalitis disease in cattle. It can transmit a bacteria called as Anaplasma marginale, which can lead to bovine anaplasmosis. Similarly, it can transfer a parasite, which is Babesia bigemina, leading to disease in cattle, bovine babesiosis. Another parasite which it can transmit is Theileria annulata, which leads to a disease called theileriosis. In equines, that is horses, this parasite is also known as Theileria babesia equi, and lead to a disease in horses known as equi pyroplasmiosis. It can transmit a bacterium, which is Escherichia which leads to heart water disease, or also called as the CC fly, which can transmit a parasite. Can you switch off the mic, please?
Vishnu, if you are there, please mute their microphones. Vishnu.
Yeah. So in the CC fly can transmit a parasite, Trypanosoma evensi, which leads to a disease called Setu. This is another kind of arthropod which can transmit virus which is known as blue tongue virus and lead to a disease in cattle known as blue tongue disease. Now, how these vectors actually transmit diseases? There are two basic means by which they can transmit disease. One is biological means, another is a mechanical means. In biological means, what happens that these arthropods ingest a pathogen while taking blood meal from infected host. The pathogen multiplies within the host. The arthropod now act as a reservoir, and this arthropod, when they bite again to a healthy or another host, they transmit these pathogens while taking blood meal. So this is one of the most common method by which these arthropods, especially the blood-sucking arthropods, transmits disease from one host to another. Another means is by mechanical means by which a vector physically carries pathogen from one place to or host to another, usually through body parts or through gastrointestinal tract. So in this case, normally the life cycle of pathogen is not occur inside the host. They just mechanically transfer from one place, pathogens from one place to another. For example, in the case of housefly, if you see, they sit on a dirty place where there is a lot of infectious bacteria, and they can come and sit near your food or place where you are eating and can transfer those bacteria from the dirty place to your food. Similarly, in the way the cockroaches transfer, they eat something and their feces are they put in near your healthy or good food, which leads to infection in humans as well as in animals. Now I'll discuss some of the mosquito-borne diseases. There are 3,500 different mosquito species throughout the world, but only few species are involved in transmission of diseases, and the most of the common species which are involved in mosquito-borne disease are Aedes, Anopheles, and Culex. So Aedes, as I mentioned previously, can transmit and help in as a vector for Chikungunya, Dengue, lymphatic filariasis, Rift Valley fever, yellow fever, Zika virus transfer. While Anopheles can act as a vector for lymphatic filariasis and malaria, while Culex can transfer or transmit Japanese encephalitis, lymphatic filariasis, West Nile fever. And if you see at these two mosquitoes, Anopheles and Aedes, you will find that in Aedes there is a typical strip kind of thing. You can find a pattern, and you can easily distinguish between other mosquitoes and Aedes. So if you see mosquito with stripes, they will definitely be Aedes mosquitoes. And to distinguish Anopheles from other, you can see their sitting position. If they sit in slant, they are Anopheles and no other. So only the mosquito which sit in slanting position is Anopheles. So in your home also, you can identify these mosquito very easily. If you find there are cases of, for example, dengue nearby, and you find Aedes mosquito, you have to be very careful that and you need to take precaution and to kill these mosquitoes so that they don't transmit disease in your area. Now I'll discuss some of the specific viruses and pathogens which mosquitoes transmit. For example, West Nile fever virus. It is a zoonotic disease caused by West Nile virus, which is a flavivirus related to viruses that causes St. Louis encephalitis, Japanese encephalitis, and yellow fever. This West Nile virus are actually zoonotic because they are normally found in birds, and the mosquito act as a vector to transmit disease from one bird to different birds. But occasionally, these mosquito bites human, and the cycle in the human starts from there. And sometimes they also transmit this disease to horse. And so out of the birds, only 2 hosts are there till now, which we know are human and mosquitoes. West Nile virus is not spread through coughing, sneezing, touching, by touching live animals, or by handling live or dead infected birds. Even you can eat those birds which are infected if they are cooked properly. So this is common for most of the diseases, because they require for transfer or for pathogenicity to be routed through the vectors. Hence, these diseases are normally not transmitted by any other means. For example, malaria cannot be transferred by any other means except through the it cannot be transferred from one person to another by touching, sneezing, coughing, or by touching any healthy person. Only it can be done through transfer through the vectors which are involved in this process. West Nile, if you see, this is highly prevalent, and only you will see the infection is present as a mild, non-fatal dengue-like illness in humans. And around 70 to 80% of the cases, patients are asymptomatic. They will not develop any symptoms of disease. Only 20 to 30% they develop minor symptoms, and only 1% of the whole population will develop into fatal. So this can be seen because the epidemic form was observed in districts of Rajasthan and Maharashtra. And when serum sample were collected from various states in India, for example, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Orissa, and Rajasthan, all of them, the serum showed the presence of West Nile virus neutralizing antibodies. So basically what we do here is we collect sample. After sample, we take serum from there. In the serum, we test whether there are antibodies which can neutralize this virus. So what is neutralization? Neutralization means that when you take virus and if antibody binds to this virus, it does not lead to the infection in the cell. So these type of antibodies were found in the human serum, which has not reported to have infection. So means that this virus is leading to asymptomatic symptoms. Now we come to Aedes mosquito. Aedes mosquito, there are two subspecies, which is Aedes aegyptis and Aedes albopictus. So these two mosquitoes transmit dengue, chikungunya, and Zika. Now we come to dengue, and this dengue virus, if you see this is a map of world, where in red you will see the areas which are highly prevalent for dengue infection. And if you see India, which is highly prevalent, or there are high risk of transmission of dengue virus in India, along with other South Asian countries. And it is also prevalent in African countries and South Asia and part of North America. So if you see this map, you will find that more than 1/3 of world population living in the risk areas at the risk of transmission, and over 100 million people are infected yearly. So the virus which leads to dengue fever is called as a dengue virus, and there are 4 different serotypes. Means that in a person can be infected 4 different times with 4 different serovars. So even if you have seen dengue once in your life, there are possibility that you may be infected 3 more times. So dengue fever leads to high fever, severe headache, severe pain behind eyes, joint pains, muscle and back pain, rashes, and mild bleeding. While in adverse cases, it may lead to high fever followed by persistent vomiting, severe abdominal pain, and difficulty in breathing. Next phase is of 24 and 40 hours, very critical, where the capillaries become leaky and lead to effusions. And if treatment is not given properly, that may lead to the circulation system failure and shock, followed by that if not treated properly. Till now, there is no vaccine or specific treatment, but there are a few vaccines which are in trials. Hopefully, we'll get some vaccine in near future. Now coming to chikungunya. Chikungunya is mosquito-borne alpha virus. It is transmitted by, as I mentioned, Aedes aegyptis and Aedes albopictus. And the most common reservoir is the non-primate humans, which include chimpanzees, monkey, and baboons. So they are normally found in the wilds. However, sometimes what happens, these mosquitoes come to the urban cycles and they can transmit humans, and then this cycle goes on. So this virus is highly endemic in Asian and African countries, which can be seen here. If you see in this picture, you will find that countries like India, China, parts of South Africa, African countries, and countries in South America, and part of America, and even some cases were found in the France and Spain also. So this disease is characterized by onset of fever and severe pain in joints of the body, and in acute symptoms typically resolve in 7 to 8 days. Mortality is rare and can occur mostly in adults. However, in this case, majority of infected people are symptomatic. So you will find the people suffering from fever and joint pains, and they have to go to hospitals for treatment. Now we come to Zika virus. Zika virus can be spread through a bite of Aedes mosquito and from pregnant woman to her fetus. It has been shown that this virus can be transmitted through sexual processes, and so infected person, and also through blood transfusion, organ transfusion, organ and tissue transplantation, and fertility treatment and breastfeeding also. This is a global distribution of Zika virus. Again, you see in India, we have a high prevalent rate of Zika virus. There are countries in Africa and South America and part of America. Zika virus symptoms are like fever, rashes, joint pain, conjunctivitis, muscle pain, headache, etc. And many people infected with Zika virus won't have Yeah, sorry, it was muted by our host. Okay, so in Zika virus, there is a infection which is more problematic in pregnant women because it can lead to problems such as birth defect and stillbirth and miscarriage. The Zika infection in pregnancy can lead to microcephaly and other severe fetal brain defects. So what is microcephaly? Microcephaly is a birth defect in which baby's head and brain is smaller than expected. And till now, there is no evidence which shows that the virus, once infected woman, can be, there will be infection in the future pregnancies. So once infection is clear, then the woman is safe from Zika virus. Now we'll come to tick and tick-borne diseases. There are around 900 different tick species worldwide, and only few, like mosquitoes, only few are involved in transmission of disease. For example, brown dog tick, American dog tick, Rocky Mountain goat tick, Western black-legged ticks, etc. This is a picture this is a tick which we have collected from nearby areas. This is a ear of cattle, and you can see small dots which are filled with tick infestation. And this is a calf in our nearby village, and you can find lot of ticks there. So this tick infestation is very common in India, and which can lead to severe anemia. Even if they are not transmitting disease, they can still lead to severe anemia in animals because the amount of blood they suck from the animal is very large in number. So this is different stages of tick where you can find it start with egg hatches to larvas, and these are the larvas of different type of ticks, and this is a nymph. After larva, they mold into nymph, and the nymph can mold into male or female. In mosquitoes, you must be aware that only female mosquitoes suck blood, and male mosquitoes, they are involved in only in the taking nectar from the plants. So Vishnu. No? Oh, wait, since how long you're not able to see? A host has disabled participant sharing screen. You have disabled me. Is it fine? Let me share. Host has disabled participant screening. Huh. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, there was some issue, technical issue where I was unable to show you my screen. So I'll start from this slide again. So if you see here, so this is a typical life cycle of a tick, where you can see from larva, from egg, larvas appears. So these are the different type of ticks, and they are different type of larvas. The larvas mold into nymph. Nymph looks like something like this, and these nymph mold into male or female ticks. Unlike, as I mentioned, that in mosquitoes only female sucks blood from the host. However, in the case of a tick, both male and female suck blood from the host. However, the female, because female requires to lay eggs, so she take lot of blood and becomes sometimes 100 times her body weight. And these are two different stages you can see. One is partially engorged and one is fully engorged. So these tick actually take a lot of blood. The reason is that they need to lay thousands of eggs in one go. So they require a lot of protein from the host. And this protein comes from blood, from hemoglobin. And this blood they digest, and they start, this is requirement for laying of the eggs. Another unique feature of this thing is, this tick, is that the females, they lay egg till they die. So they put their all energy in laying eggs, and so that they can lay thousands of eggs in one go, because the chances of survival of tick is very rare. So 1 in million of the ticks can go to particular animal, and they can start their life cycle. Now I'll discuss some of the disease which these tick transmit. One of them is Lyme disease, which is caused by bacterium Borrelia, and it is transmitted through bite of infected black-legged ticks, which is from Ixodes species. The symptoms include fever, headache, fatigue, and characteristic skin rashes known as erythema. In India, Lyme disease is not very common. You may find some cases in Punjab and other small areas, but not very common in India. Then Rocky Mountain spot fever. It is caused by bacterium rickettsia, transmitted by American dog tick, Rocky Mountain wood tick, and brown dog tick. Symptoms include fever, headache, abdominal pain, vomiting, muscle pain, etc. Rashes may develop, but often absent in the first few days, and some patients never develop. But this disease is very fatal in nature. If not treated properly, in first 8 days, the patient may die. So it is very important that a patient goes and see doctor, and if they find ticks nearby, they should mention, so that they can their treatment can start quickly. Now I'll come to some of the disease which these tick transmit to animals, livestock. This theileriosis is one of the common disease which we find in livestock. It is caused by a parasite called Theileria annulata. It belongs to same family as of malaria, Plasmodium. It is an epicomplexan parasite, and it can lead to a disease, theileriosis. Symptoms include fever, anemia, jaundice, and characteristic feature of this disease is that enlargement of lymph node, and there is a difficulty in breathing, and there is a weight loss of animals. So in the life cycle starts when infected, when tick feeds on the infected animal's blood. So they take blood from the animal. Along with that, they take the parasites. These parasites differentiate into gametes. They fuse to form zygote, then kinets, and these kinets reach back to these salivary glands. And these animals, these ticks, these insects, they normally while feeding, they release this salivary gland, saliva from the salivary gland, and along with the saliva, these sporozoites are released into the bloodstream of the animal. These sporozoites, when released in the blood, they look for the specific type of cell in the host. In the case of Theileria, they look for leukocytes, and they invade into the leukocytes. After invading into the leukocyte, they differentiate into what we call as a scions, and the scions can further multiply, and or they can the parasite can undergo merogony, where they can make different type of parasite which is called as a merozoites. These merozoites are released in the blood, and these in the blood they are called as a pyroplasm, and same pyroplasm are taken up by the next tick from the infected animal. The unique feature of this parasite is that it leads to lymphoproliferation of the cells, means that they lead to a cancer kind of phenotype or blood cancer kind of phenotype in the animals, leading to the very increase in the number of leukocytes and leading to the disease. Now I'll come to another disease which is called as a babesiosis. It is caused by various species of Babesia, and the symptoms include fatigue, headache, muscle ache, vomiting, and hemoglobinuria. It is one of the most important feature of this disease, which leads to hemoglobinuria. Means you will find the hemoglobin in the feces and urine. So in this case, like filaria, the infected animals tick will bite, take blood meal. Along with it, these gametes will be taken up, and these gametes will fertilize inside the tick. After fertilization, they will become zygote and then ookinete, and then similarly like filaria, sporogony will happen and sporolize will be there. So what happens is that all of these parasite need to come, or pathogens need to come to the salivary gland, so that they can be easily transmitted to the next host. So these sporozoites are again reaches to salivary glands, and after reaching to salivary glands, they are released into next healthy animal, and then the life cycle completes. Similarly, in the case of equine pyroplasmiosis, this is caused by filaria equi, and this disease occurs in horses. The symptoms includes weakness, loss of appetite, fever, anemia, breathlessness, and the life cycle is exactly similar as of Babesia, where the tick act as a mediator between the merozoites and releases sporozoites inside the horses. Now we'll come to snail-borne diseases. Snail is a small aquatic animal which can transmit a parasite which is called a schistosomiasis by a flatworm, parasitic flatworm. The urinary tract or intestine may be affected. The symptoms include abdominal pain, diarrhea, blood stool, and blood in the urine. Long-term infection may lead to liver damage, kidney failure, infertility, or bladder cancer. It's more important to take care of children because it may lead to poor growth and learning difficulties. This parasite is transmitted through snail, as I mentioned, and snail in the feces and urine are taken up by the snail. They multiply inside the snail, and a lot of generation happens, and they differentiate into sporocysts, which are released as a free swimming parasite, and this free swimming parasite is taken up by the humans. Some people do consume this snail, and if the snail is not cooked properly, this parasite can enter into the humans and then can lead to various diseases inside the human. I'll discuss one of the disease which is a flea-borne disease, which is very important disease of plague, which is caused by a bacterium Yersinia pestis, and this is transmitted by bite of infected rodent, flea, or by handling an infected animal. There are different kind of plague. One is bubonic plague, in which enlarged tender lymph node and fever, chill, and happens. And in other cases, septic plague, where fever, chill, and abdominal pain, shock, and bleeding into the skin and other organ happens. And pneumonitic plague, where chill, fever, cough, and difficulty in breathing happens. a last episode of plague in India happened in 1994, where in southern and southern central and western part of India was affected, and there were a lot of reports of this. And the main reason for this infection was unhygienic conditions and not maintaining cleanliness. And then this disease was eradicated easily by making things clean and tidy. The last thing which I would like to discuss is rodent. They don't bite, but they can help act as a transmitter of diseases. So they can directly or indirectly transmit. Directly, they can spoil your food, water, and air by through urine and feces, and indirectly by carrying fleas, which I just mentioned, ticks and nits on their body, and they can spoil food, water, and air. So directly, the rat can bite, and they can transmit salmonellosis, leptospira, hantavirus, and indirectly they can through rodent flea, ticks, and nits, they can transmit plague, murine typhus, and some other diseases. Now I'll come to last topic, which is vector control. We need to have an integrated pest management, which is a coordinated use of pest and environmental information with available pest control methods to prevent unacceptable level of pest damage by the most economical means and with the least possible hazard to people, property, and environment. So the definition looks little difficult, but the essence of this definition is that we need to control pests so that we don't damage environment, and we use least amount of pest control method so that our environment is safe. So the most common strategy is the common sense, because most of these diseases can be controlled if you control pest. And how you control pest is either by maintaining cleanliness, by maintaining a good environment, by keeping you should be aware, and all these can come under the common sense strategies. In long-term strategies, where we need to look for long-term solutions so that we remove the breeding grounds of these vectors. Another important thing is better understanding of pest. We must know what pest we are dealing with, and finally what we require is that whatever means we use, there should be no effect or minor effect on environment and human health. The most common problem which we find in pest control is using unnecessary lot of chemicals which are dangerous to the environment. So how we make strategy? First of all, we should understand which pest we are talking about. We should damage how much this pest is causing damage. Then we should come with guidelines, and then we apply on the field and we assess how much effective it is. If it is effective, we go ahead and we can control pest. If it is not effective, we can change strategy and go ahead. So there are various methods by which we can do integrated pest management. If you see, this is a pyramid where the education and sanitization comes first, and it is the most important part, because most of the things can be easily taken care with the education. So as students, you must be take initiative in looking for different methods. You can educate people who don't know. For example, the simple method to prevent mosquitoes are removing all the water which are or water reservoirs which are in your house at least. So if you find somewhere there's a breeding ground, for example, coolers, you find some tires filled with water, and all those things which are very inapproachable to you, you can easily do. Or you can teach your neighbors that, okay, if water is staggered, they should clean it so that mosquito breeding ground goes away. Then next level comes where government can participate, where you have ponds or rivers or other areas where you cannot do yourself. where government has to participate. So the government can participate. Another means is physical, mechanical means, where you use, for example, for mosquitoes, you can use mosquito nets. You can use, for ticks, you can again see your animal. For example, if you have pet, you have a dog, and a dog is having ticks, so you can clean by your hands also. You can remove ticks and kill them. So that's a physical method. And the another method is biological methods, where we can use various type of biological means. For example, this is a fish which can eat larvae of mosquito, which is called as a mosquito fish. Then there is a oxpecker bird which can eat ticks. Another bird is cattle egret. You will find this egret very nearby the animal, and they keep on cleaning these animals. And this animal always let this bird to come nearby and clean its tick infestation. Another novel method recently identified to take care of mosquito is by using a bacteria, Wolbachia, for controlling Aedes mosquitoes. So what happens? This bacterium is not found in Aedes mosquito. So when a male mosquito with Wolbachia mates with female mosquitoes, they do not have Wolbachia, the eggs will not hatch. So this bacteria prevents egg from hatching. So this is one of the method which some countries have adopted, where they release mosquitoes with Wolbachia in regular intervals, these mosquitoes mate with the female, and when these female lay eggs, they cannot fertilize. So this is one of the method which still in discussions. Few countries have adopted, and the results will tell us whether we can use in other countries also or not. The last method in this list was chemical, which we call as a pesticide. Pesticide is a substance intended to prevent, destroying, and repelling any pest. But there are various advantage and disadvantage. One of the advantages is that you can kill pest very easily. However, these chemicals are normally potential hazard to the environment and health. One of the known case of use of pesticide is decreasing level of the vultures, because a lot of pesticides were used, and in the dead animals, it reaches to the cycle, and the pesticides were taken by the animals. Those animals died, and then the flesh was eaten by the vultures, and vulture died. So we need to have a very we need to use these pesticides in a controlled manner, so that we don't disturb environment. Another problem with using pesticide is that if you use large amount of pesticide, it may lead to the resistance in the pathogens. So or vectors. So they may not be these particular pesticide will not be useful. So there are now various cases of emergence and resurgence of vector-borne diseases. Mostly it is because of the resistance of pesticide. So if you know the case where now mosquitoes are resistant to DDT. So DDT was once introduced as a pesticide which was used by the humans in lot of quantities and without seeing the adverse effect, and now mosquitoes are resistant to it. So like that, there is an increase in population, there is a decrease, a deterioration in the public health infrastructure. There is urbanization taking place. The people are staying near the forest areas, which leads to the zoonotic infection coming to humans. There are change in agricultural practices. There is deforestation is happening. Another reason for this vector-borne disease is increasing travel. So those diseases which were very common in one particular country, because of this travel, people are traveling from one country to another. They are carrying mosquitoes along with them. They are carrying infection along with them and transmitting to large number of other countries. So the last thing which I would like to say in this talk is that vector and vector-borne disease are preventable by awareness. So all of you who are listening to this talk, you can easily take care of all these diseases by just small amount of awareness. You need to just look for your areas, and you can look for various vectors which are around you, and you can take precaution. And with this, I would like to end my talk. I'll thank you for listening to my talk, and I'll be happy to answer questions if you have. Hello. 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 Any questions? Anyone? हाँ, ये हो गया है मेरा खत्म, लेकिन अभिजीत को उस पे फोन किया, उठाया नहीं, मैं उस पे करता हूँ, दूसरे पे करता हूँ। नहीं कोई नहीं, मैं अभिजीत को फोन करता हूँ, ऑफिस में नहीं है, मैं देखता हूँ। Hello, anyone want to ask any question? Hello. हाँ विष्णु, am I audible to you? Okay.
Hello. Hi,
Hello.
Anand. Anand, it's me, Sandeep.
Sandeep, hello.
Anand, like in second PPT, you have shown like a 3 mosquitoes, Aedes and Culex and Anopheles, and you mentioned like a different disease, like with Aedes, there's a lot of diseases, and in Culex, like a couple of. So it's quite old, like a well-established research. So how like these diseases make differences? Are mosquitoes have some kind of like a biology for the spreading these diseases?
Yeah. So basically what happens is that these pathogens, they require a specific environment for their next stage of life. Okay, so it's not that only, for example, there will be bacteria, parasite, and viruses, right?
Yeah.
So viruses require a specific receptor to go inside a cell, and then they will multiply in these cells, and then it will be transmitted. Similarly, bacteria will also require some environment, and parasite will require some environment to grow. So these mosquitoes are very specific for specific pathogen, and hence they can be multiplied there. Other mosquitoes, they don't give opportunity for these for their replication or multiplication. Hence, they are very specific for specific disease. Otherwise, if you see, there are 3,500 different species of mosquitoes throughout the world, but only few of them are able to transmit because these pathogens need to complete a part of their life cycle inside the host, inside the vector, right?
Yes.
So they provide a specific environment as well as specific receptors are there for specific pathogens, for that they can enter inside the host cells.
Host and yeah, like one disease you mentioned, like for all three of these, this
That was a parasite,
Uh,
which doesn't require actually, which is a parasite which is outside extracellular. So that way only, midgut is required, and that is sufficient for it to multiply.
Okay. So actually, you mentioned with all three. Then I
Yeah,
thought like
all three are there. There's lymphatic filariasis.
Yes, lymphatic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anand.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? So Dr. Abhijit, are you around? So if there are not more questions, we can wind up. Hello. Anybody wants to ask any question? Okay, then if there's no question, we will just close. Thank you very much for all of you to participate in this talk, and we will close this session now. Vishnu? 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 How Vishnu, close this session. Thank you. Bye. Thank you all. Bye.